Okay, and so we cover two methods, right? So what we're doing today, talking about this, is not really a systematic way of thinking about how to do push hands, because really there's no systematic way of thinking about you do push hands this way now, and then later you do it this way, and then later you do that way, like a systematic progression. You know, push hands really, there's no systematic way of progressing, right? It depends on the individual. Okay, so we talk about two ways of dealing with an incoming push, right? And another way of dealing with an incoming push is to observe, right? To observe that force. Okay, so first we circle, you push, right? And I try to think about, okay, how to observe your force. Now, to think about observing your force, I cannot have a very big open posture, right? A big open posture is not really good for absorbing incoming force. Okay, just like, you know, a house, like this house, for example, right? It's a structure, right? It's a big structure, right? And it's a solid structure, and it's not good for absorbing incoming force, right? When a tornado comes or earthquake comes, right? It can't really properly adjust because it's a solid structure, right? But at least it's, you know, this is made of wood, the inside, so there's some room to, you know, adjust when there's earthquake, okay? But other than that, this is like a solid structure. So when you push, I can only either resist or I give more space to dissipate your force, or I redirect. Okay, I wouldn't, when you push, I wouldn't be able to absorb that force because it's a solid structure, right? To absorb somebody's force, when somebody's pushing, then you need to change your body from more a structured body to more elastic body, right? I talked about elastic body before, right? So to create an elastic quality, your body, your stance has to be smaller, right? So circle, you see now I'm in a smaller stance instead of a bigger solid structure. Okay, now you push. 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 Right now it's harder for you to push. Yeah. Right, even though I'm not completely resisting your push, because I'm not creating the structure. This structure is where if you push, I use my structure to resist. And that requires a lot of force, a lot of strength to create that resistance. Okay, so, but then when the body becomes more elastic, you see, the body becomes more rounded. Okay, when you stand, if I stand like this, I still small space. Not like this space. If I stand like this, small space, but my body is more straight, upright. So here, if you push, I wouldn't be able to absorb that force because the body is not rounded. So absorbing force is only possible when you're rounded, right? Think about the spider web. The reason a spider web is able to absorb some force, right? I'm not talking about realistically speaking, you know, those spider webs, they're just too small. You know, it's not going to absorb anything, right? But if you're imagining a much bigger spider web, and each thing, these lines, they're thicker, right? And they're bigger. So then, you know, like in the comics. So when the force comes in, right, the reason that it's able to absorb some of that force is the spider web is able to go backward, create a curvature.
Yeah, like
right?
A trampoline or a net.
Yeah, like a trampoline or net, right? It creates this curvature to absorb force, right? If there's no curvature, if everything just straight lines, flat, it's only resistance. Okay, and so even though I'm working with a smaller space, if I'm upright, push, I'm resisting, right? Because my body is flat. Okay, so requires curvature to absorb. And to create that curvature, the space has to be smaller, right? If I'm standing like this with a big space, I want to create curvature, it wouldn't work because there's just too much space. There's no curvature. Unless I'm so much taller, then it's possible. But given my height, okay, I can only create curvature if I'm smaller, right? If I'm working, redefining the space and make a smaller space to work with. So now you push, right, push. Yeah, you're pushing against a curvature, a round-shaped curvature. So it means that your force cannot directly land somewhere. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? Yeah. It's like you're pushing a curvature or you're pushing a ball. The force goes around the surface instead of directly pushing at a point. If a flat surface, you can push at a point, and that's all. So your force is concentrated on that point, right? It doesn't dissipate in any way. But if the curvature is round, if there's a curvature, then you push, it means that the force dissipates
around the structure.
Yeah, around the curved structure.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? So then your force is no longer concentrated when your force is going forward. And this is what curvature is, right? So you push, right? Now it's a curvature, push, push, push. Yeah, and curvature can adjust. Curvature is not static, right? If an object, right, has a curvature, then that curvature is static. Okay, so if I have a static curvature, if this push here doesn't work, you can change different positions and may affect the object. Okay, but if the curvature is able to move around, adjust, the curvature adjusts itself, reposition itself, right? Okay, so now you don't have a very concentrated target point to direct your force, direct your push. Okay? And then also with the curvature, I can also redirect your force. So when you push, you see, I just turn my body a little bit, right? I turn my body a little bit, and then I turn, right? Now with a curvature, when I turn, right, you push slower, okay, slower. So you push. With a curvature, when I turn, I'm not completely dissipating your force. Okay, because it's a curvature, so some of your force is contained within that curvature. Part of your force may dissipate because I'm turning, but also your force does not completely dissipate because there's a curvature, and so the curvature itself contains part of your force that you use to push me, right? So therefore, now if I work with your force and then I push you, it means that the force that's contained, your force that's contained in this curvature is sending it back to you. That's redirecting our force. Okay, just turning the body with a solid structure, that's not redirecting your force. Just redirecting and dissipating the force.
No.
Okay, right. Yeah, but here with a curvature, I contain some of that force, and then when I push, I'm sending it back to you. Okay? Yeah. And also, when I'm pulling you, let's say your force is coming in, right? Your force is coming in, I'm turning, and I'm pulling you, right? If I use my structure, if you push, and I use my structure to pull you, it's very obvious where I'm pulling you, and you know where I'm pulling you. Okay, it's very clear. So if you know where I'm pulling you, maybe you can resist. Or if you're out of your space already, then you cannot resist. But whether you can resist or you cannot resist, if I use my solid structure to pull you, you know where it's going. Okay, very clear. But with a curved structure, so with a curved structure, when I try to pull you, how do you feel?
Yeah, I didn't know.
It's not very clear where I'm pulling you because it's a curvature. Right, when it's a curvature, where are you getting pulled to? You may not know, right? Yeah, because it's more rounded. Okay, again, circle, 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 push. Yeah. So it's not very clear that it's going in this direction. Could be going in that direction, could be going in this direction.
Yeah.
Could be going in slightly different angles of directions.
The last one I thought it was going this way, but it ended up going down.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, not
Yes.
this one, the one before.
Right. And for me, I'm pulling you, I'm not trying to think, I pull you this way or I pull you that way. It just is a curvature. I'm just turning, I'm rolling with it. Yeah. So wherever your force is going with my rolling force, then you go there. Yeah. So I'm not directing specifically at a particular point.